Hi guys, I hope you guys all had a good 4th of July, and actually I was just going to post about regular stuff because my daughter will be here today for a couple of weeks and I'm super excited about that. I was not going to post publicly about what I'm about to talk about, but seeming as though there was a public post made with no opportunity for me to defend myself, I'm going to do this video because I think it's important that everybody understands the kind of dynamic that was, of course, thrown out on Front Street and put into the public eye, and as far as I'm concerned, unjustly and unfairly, considering the circumstances. So, before I kind of get to the root of the problem right now, I want to give you a little bit of background, which I've gone over a little bit before, but I just want to kind of clarify. So, when I got out of jail 10 years ago, I took 3 different age parenting classes that I was not required to take. Within 2 weeks, I got an apartment, I got a car, I got a job, I got my IDs back, I got everything replaced and repaired, and I was on track and sober. 2 weeks after I got out. Within 3 months, I had my son back from the foster care system because, again, they took him while I was there. And within 6 months, my case was completely closed out, no questions asked. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good track record considering what I was in jail for and how long I was in there and all that other stuff. And the fact that I lost everything while I was in there. Okay, so during that time when I got out, I had asked my mom if I can see my kids. And I was told I didn't need to disrupt them just yet. They were just getting settled, yada, 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 yada. So I asked her over and over again over the years. I asked her if I could come for Christmas. I said I would pay myself to come to Christmas so that I could see my kids and spend some time with them. And I was told no. I was basically told I'm not allowed in Reno, which, apparently Reno was owned by the Queen Bee herself at that point. But even if I had come to Reno, she wouldn't have let me into her house to see the kids, so it would have been a waste of money. I asked for my kids back over and over again, and I was told that I was not a good parent. I was never going to be a good parent. And with my current situation, didn't I think that I should stop trying to hurt my kids by trying to get them back when they basically were in a place where they had plenty of money and everything was taken care of. And then I was told I will be taken to court, and I cannot afford a really good lawyer, but other people can, and that if it came down to it, there was going to be some dragging through the mud and I would never get them back. So I was still insecure, not sure of myself, totally scared of the situation, ashamed for relapsing, and a lot of other factors, but I was gaslit into basically not trying to scrape together the money to take them to court, at least minimally, because I was told that it would just be a waste of money and that I was basically going to hurt my kids by doing that. And they didn't want to leave, and they were happy where they were, and they were mad at me for letting them go in the first place and for messing up and all this other stuff. And it was a terrible situation. To the point where I backed off of them completely, and I was afraid to even try to call them for a little point in time there. So, fast forward to moving back to Reno. And of course now, in the interim, I was still in Vegas when Clyde came back home, and he was sent to me as a punishment so that he could see what it's like to live poor and what great people they were for having him in the first place. And then they were going to send for him back, and they expected him to come running back to them and be so happy that he was allowed to come back and all this other stuff. And he chose to stay with me, and that was a thorn in the rest of the family's side, if you know what I mean. So that created a lot of anger. And then, I had him for about 1.5 to 2 years before we moved back to Reno. Well, no, about a year. And then we moved, a little over a year, and then we moved back to Reno because he turned 18 here. So yeah, that's about right. So long story short, when I moved back to Reno, I was able to see Caleb um, at my I was able to see Caleb at my uh, Christmas at my mom's house. I was able to see him a little bit under direct supervision, um, with everybody listening to every word I said, so no private conversations, no figuring out why things were so weird between us. I really haven't even had a chance to speak to him alone. I mean, he finally got a cell phone and we've texted back and forth now, but of course, as you guys know, she packed up her house and moved to Missouri, back across the United States, so they're nowhere near us. Now, it had been mentioned by kind of all the kids, maybe Caleb could come and visit so that everyone could spend some time together. And I was like, well, I mean, I can try, but I'm not sure how that's going to work out. So then Clyde asked if Caleb could come visit because Clyde misses his brother. And of course, he was given a flat out no with excuses about all the busy things going on this year. And it's like, well, okay, well, can he come visit Christmas or next summer or whatever? And it was just shut down. So then I get a call. Now, keeping in mind, she has not called to speak to me at all, or talk to me about it at all. She calls me on the 4th of July, knowing I'm sitting there with a bunch of family around me and everything else, and starts screaming at me about me more or less being a home wrecker and trying to destroy everything they've built there. And he just needs to, take some time and get settled and get secure. So I said, okay, Mom, whatever you say. Like, whatever you say. I didn't want to get into a big, huge, heated argument, debate with her in front of everybody, just to get, to feel humiliated again. And I wasn't going to let her make me feel like that when we were having a good day. And so I said, I was just saying maybe I could see him sometime. So she concedes, well, maybe sometime. We'll talk about it later. She gets off the phone. Then I get, and I'm already upset a little bit because she's screaming at me for no reason. And of course, I'm not friends with her on her social media because she kicked me off her social media because I'm not allowed to have an opinion or stand up for myself on any of that stuff. So she posts this passive aggressive message, and of course it doesn't have any specifications because then nobody will really be on her side if they really get to the meat and potatoes of it. But it literally says something to the extent of a little bit of good time, or just because you're doing good right now, or happy because you're doing good right now, there it is, but a little bit of good time doesn't erase 3 decades of pain. I don't know why you think you're going to get control of any kind. Something like that. And it was brought to my attention actually by one of you guys, and of course a different family member after that again as well. And I was like, what? Like, okay, so if she's truly upset, if we truly need to sit and talk about it, but it wasn't the best time, and we haven't even really had a discussion about it besides her screaming and not letting me really get a word in edgewise, then is it appropriate for her to once again plaster my business all over social media? I mean, it was obvious enough who she was talking about to have one of you guys go, I take it this is about you. Yeah, I mean, so it's, you know what I mean? It's pretty obvious. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but so I decided that if my only recourse is to make a video to stand up for myself, then that's what I'm going to do. And again, I'm doing my best not to badmouth anybody. I'm just pretty upset with the situation because I feel like asking to see my son for a couple of days is not wrong. And if it's been discussed between me and him, and he said he even though he's not as happy there as he could be, he still wants to stick it out because he has college plans and all this stuff, and they promised to help him with that. And I totally understand that. I just want to see him, and he just wants to see me for a few days, But I think that she thinks that I'm going to try to steal him, but I didn't make the decision for Clyde to stay with me. She sent him to me because she couldn't handle him. He was miserable there because they were always fighting, and he made the decision to stay with me because me and him very rarely argue, and he was peaceful and happy with me. And I thought that was a good decision on his part, considering what the circumstances were. Again, I'm not going to throw a lot of details out there, but the details are a lot more shocking and interesting and involved than you would think. But just suffice it to say, they did not get along. They argued all the time, and it was bad. Okay. So again, I'm not trying to steal him, wreck any homes, or do anything else. I just want to get to know my son, who I wasn't allowed to see for years and years at all. I just want to get to know him. He's going to be a man in 3.5 years, and I barely even know him, and it's not fair. So my rant is mostly over. That's obviously I'm getting it off my chest because, again, if you see that context, it makes it pretty obvious that it's me, and it makes it pretty obvious that I'm some kind of a monster trying to steal control. But I would just like you to know that in the past 3 decades that were mentioned, total time, including the relapse that nobody knew about, and the most recent several months relapse 10 years ago, I have spent a total of, at the most, 2.5 years high. Okay? 2 3/4 years if you want to just like push the envelope, but I don't think it was that long. So the rest of the time, for 12 years in between, I was fighting to be sober. I was fighting to keep my life together. I was paying all the bills. I was taking care of my kids. I was doing everything right. I just wasn't acknowledged for doing everything right, or anything right, for that matter, at all. Because, of course, with derision, I was a poor person, and poor people, there's something wrong with them. But I worked enough to pay the bills, so I guess I wasn't that poor. I worked enough to keep food on the table, so I guess I wasn't that poor. I worked enough to make sure that my kids didn't know they were poor, so I guess I wasn't that poor. And bottom line is that, of course, I kick myself in the mouth all the time for relapsing, because that's what started all of this. And of course, that was my fault. But I was promised with sincerity and eye contact that it would be different this time around if I got my court stuff done, got a place, got a car, got a job. I could have my kids back, no questions asked, no fight. So that was the most sincere lie I've ever seen in my life, because it was told to me as a promise with tears in the eyes and everything, and you see where that went. So obviously, promises from certain people don't mean shit. And then, just being kicked under a carpet somewhere so that you don't have to look at me in the eyes because of your broken promise doesn't mean shit to you either. And I mean, again, I don't see how, even with my relapse, yeah, it caused some issues, but did it really cause you personal pain? Did I do anything directly to you? No. Did I do anything in the 12 years that I was sober and doing well and getting by well on my own? No, I didn't do anything to hurt you then either. So why are you trying to say that I've caused you 3 decades of personal pain and suffering, and now I'm trying to steal control of your life? You don't care about my feelings, my kids, my son, my life. It's all about you and how you feel, and just, it's galling and it hurts and it's confusing a little bit. And again, I just wanted to get on here and clarify the exact story behind everything, because of course I didn't always do right. We all know this. I've been open, clear, honest about everything, all the reprehensible things I've done, terrible ways I've thought, things that made me feel grimy just to say, but I said them anyways because it's the truth. And I feel like maybe it's time for someone else to be accountable for her actions, but that's never going to happen. So I don't even know what to do anymore. There is a solution, which again, I'm not going to talk about online because it's just not the right thing to do. But I love you all. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for listening to me. hopefully anyone who saw that has a better idea of what's going on now, because again, vague passive aggressive posts and throwing people's business on Front Street is not the way to go. But I do have a right to stand up for myself and put everything in context. So, you know, I love my mom. I do. I love my kids. I just want a peaceful, happy existence with everyone, and I would work with her, and I would do the right thing, and I would send him back when I promise to send him back, because that's what I do. I keep my word. But I'm still not allowed to see him, so there's that. All right. I love you all. I'll talk to you guys next week. Feel free to anything you like in the comments, or ask anything you like in the comments. And sorry about the rent. I know sometimes I go off on a bender, but other than that, everything is great. I have my orientation for my new job on Tuesday, or for my new brokerage, and I'm going to start learning the ropes. So I'm really excited about that. Anyone in Nevada who needs to buy or sell a house, you know where to find me. All right. I love you guys, and I will talk to you soon.